So much space. On Venus, a day is longer than a year. How messed up is that? Oh wait, don't women come from that planet?
If getting married was easy, staying married is definitely not easy, no? I mean, earlier I was like, okay, you can drink a little of my beer. But now she's almost always guzzling my alcohol. During the day, night, wherever, she's on my booze all the time.
There are only two things we men truly care about. Booze and when there's no booze.
That's very true.
And the real man don't share.
That's also true.
Be a real man. Choose dry booze.
Uh-huh.
One sip and she's out for the week.
Whoa.
And dry booze removes all senses of your system. So she won't even snore when she's passed out by the sink.
Oh, that's good. That's very good.
Now that's good booze.
Oh, yes, that's good. Great booze.
Upload a selfie of your crotch as evidence and get a free crate at SaveMyBooze.com.
Okay.
Just BOOZ.
Okay.
Save my booze, because it's one of the two things men truly care about.
That's true.
You're performing an autopsy? They've just wheeled in a fresh new body. He committed suicide by hanging. How unfortunate. They put the body on the table and they leave. You walk away to pick up your scalpel. When you come back to the table, you see the dude's got a boner. What? I mean, how pretty can you be?
There's a lot of porn piling up on the internet. Doesn't download itself.
He's got what's called a death erection, angel lust, or terminal erection. It's a post-mortem condition, technically called a priapism. It's been observed in corpses of men who died by hanging or a spinal cord injury. Women, stop giggling. Priapism affects both men and women. In women, the labia and the clitoris, they may become enlarged and there may be discharge of blood from the vagina. In men, a more or less a complete state of erection. Well, there's discharge of urine, mucus and prostatic fluid too, but let's just focus on the boner. Are you still depending on that surgeon to make that incision? How can you be certain the surgeon didn't just gulp down a bourbon? Be safe. Choose a robot. Robots don't need alcohol to calm their wires. And calculators don't make mistakes. RoboSurge. Side effects may include loss of appetite, memory, and life. There are 170 plants in the Cannabisaceae family. This is the family that grows a lot of terpenes. Basically the plant females of the plant, they collect a lot of cannabinoids in them. These are chemical compounds that engage with our nervous system, part of our nervous system. That nervous system is called the endocannabinoid nervous system. That is why these chemical compounds are called cannabinoids. And the cannabis family happens to have a lot of them in abundance. But there is some gossip in this story. Now, from a scientific taxonomy point of view, Cannabis sativa, Cannabis indica, and Cannabis ruderalis, there is a third cannabis species which is not very conveniently accepted by the Western scientists. Now, part of the reason what I have figured out could be that ruderalis is an auto-flowering plant. This is the plant that's growing along the foothills of the Himalayas. Because sativa by itself doesn't quite flower. She flowers when she wants to. These plants are of medicinal value. They are beyond food. So they don't just flower on their own. Cannabis sativa is a plant that requires a lot of care for it to start to collect those many cannabinoids. And the ruderalis, that's an interesting plant because that doesn't require the male to start flowering. Strange, isn't it? Cannabis as a family of plants is pretty cool because they just can grow on their own. That's why it's called a weed. They can grow really fast and they will grow provided they can grow. They tried to grow a new plant in the hills of the Himalayas to outbeat the sativa, and guess what? The sativa took over. So that new plant couldn't grow there. That's the thing about this plant. It's a very strong, hardy plant, but it will grow only in conditions that it wants to grow. Otherwise, it doesn't grow. And even after growing, it will decide when its cannabinoid profile will be of value. So it's not like she's going to do a great job. I'm talking about the plant here. When I say she, I meant the plant. Yeah, the females of this plant are the only worthy ones. The males are absolutely defunct and useless. But the gender of this plant, it decides sometime while it's growing up. So it's not like you have this concept of feminized seeds. There is nothing such. There is no such ideas. Anywho, the point is that if you are trying to grow this plant at home, that's a great idea, but you're going to be growing a plant that's really low in its cannabinoid profile. 50,000 kilograms of this plant, if you're going to press, you may be able to take out a liter, and that too terrible oil, really weak, diluted, and in all probability, you're going to have a bad headache and probably nausea.
Remote working from the dweeps. Unlimited SATCOM internet. Free Wi-Fi and only 28.8% of your paycheck. Call 1-800-DWEEP to book your quarters today.
I don't know about you, but I have always wondered why I don't see butterflies when it's raining. Where do they go? I mean, those droplets are like bullets. They'll rip right through them, right? So here's what they do. They'll go and sit onto a branch, a tree, a piece of grass, any place they can find where they'll fold their wings as tight as close to each other, like a straight thin line, and they'll go upside down. So when they are upside down, their colors are very faint and you can't see them. So the predators can't get to them. And the water, it doesn't destroy their wings because that's the structural method. The way their wings are phenomenal. It's a totally different science. I can't even begin to talk about it. You need to see it. Not everybody gets up in the morning and starts shouting. Do you do that? I don't think humans do that. But every bird must get up and start screaming and shouting. It's something like a ritual. For the longest time, science believed that the birds are exerting their territorial behavior. They're trying to look out for their partners, their children. It's a wake-up call. It's a sound that they make. In fact, across mythology, across stories, it's always the music of the birds. The morning is all about songs of the birds singing. Recently, what we found is apparently plants, they kick off their cycle when they start hearing these frequencies. Interesting. Is tomato a fruit or a vegetable? It's a question that perplexes almost everyone because botanically, it's a fruit. Fruits are the seed-bearing outputs. So if they have seeds, they are fruits. Tomatoes are fruits. But legally, it's a vegetable. It gets taxed as a vegetable.
Hasta la vista, baby.
And that's because of a famous case in 1893 that went all the way to the Supreme Court in the United States. It was a famous case called Nix versus Hedden. So the Supreme Court wanted to clarify the difference between the two. And here's what they say. Vegetables are eaten as part of the main course of the meal, but fruit is eaten as an appetizer, dessert, or for a snack. How dumb could they be? Was it because it was 1893? Hey man, that rhymes! Deep doubts, deep wisdom. Small doubts, small wisdom. Science of taste. I'm talking about one of our senses, one of our 5 senses. Well, actually, there are 8. I'll tell you about that later. But for now, let's assume the sense of taste. Now, the science behind this is really weak. I mean, for a big reason, is because food has undergone so much of change. In the last 100, science is barely 150, 200 years old. And in that much time, so much of food has interspersed itself across the globe. Nobody knew about sushi. People still don't know about chole bhature. What I'm trying to say is that the food is not known, and now in the last 50, 60, 100 years, people have started traveling and they started mingling with each other, and therefore there has been so much of food that has been available. So the science of taste has really not been up to the mark. They've not been able to stay on top of things. What we do know is that this is a neural reaction for sure. What you're putting into your mouth is going to be reacted. The brain is going to know. It's going to try to taste it. If it's new, it's going to try to create a memory. If it remembers what it tastes like, the decision to eat it or not will happen in a jiffy. It's so, in fact, now we know for sure that other senses are also at play. How the food looks, how the food smells, how it feels to touch mushrooms, raw versus cooked. What is the sound of that food? That's where ASMR comes from, asynchronous meridian response. I'll tell you about that later. Now back to the taste. Now, what is this taste? These are flavonoids. These are chemical compounds that will engage with the sensory receptors on our tongue, and our brains will register that. This information will travel through the nervous system to our brain. The brain will compare this with a previous memory, approve, disapprove, mouth will shut or open wide, eyes may close. All of this happens in a jiffy. There are five senses: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. That's the flavor in tomatoes and MSG. And look what we have made from just these four tastes. You know what's really awesome about this world of taste? Plants don't really need to put any flavonoids in their fruits and vegetables. I mean, nothing in their lives will change if they don't have flavor. Maybe they do it for us, for us, for us, for us. The taste of anything you eat is what creates the memory.